Hebrews, Hebrews. This is Prophets of Awakening. This is our evening Sabbath class, the 29th of April, 2023. I was mentioning this earlier in this morning Sabbath class and last night about some things about Cain's son and the city of Enoch and all that. So what I'm going to do is kind of touch on, for those people that haven't came across this information, I'm going to deal with the book of Lamech a little bit and connect some dots for you. That's what the topic or the discussion for this class will be. So, for those that don't know, this is a YouTube. You can go to our YouTube channel, Prophets of Awakening, and check out our videos. We got like 600 videos. So there's a lot of information given in the videos. And they will connect dots for you for those people that's seeking the truth. And if you like what you're hearing and receiving through these videos, through the channel, I'm asking you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It would be greatly appreciated. Okay, and this is a non-Messianic channel, and by that I mean Tanakh and Torah. We deal with the Tanakh, the Old Testament, so-called Book of Remembrance, and the first 5 books of the Old Testament that was given to Moses by the Lord of hosts. Okay, don't subscribe to the New Testament or to Jesus Christ or Yahweh Shai, whatever you want to call it. Okay, fictitious character. Shalom and welcome to Prophets of Awakening, and welcome to our evening Shabbat class. Okay, we're gonna do our normal, which is a moment of silence, Sabbath, evening Sabbath prayer to close out the Sabbath, Psalms, do some current events, a little need to know information. And we'll open it up for some questions and comments. Then we'll dive into the topic, which is the book of Lamech uncovered. Okay, this moment of silence is for the Lord of hosts and all that He's doing to bring about our prophesied deliverance in these latter days. We'll be gathered from all these among our enemies. Okay. Oh Lord, we pray unto the Lord, my God. We make our confessions. Oh Lord, the great and dreadful God, keep your covenant and mercy to them that love thee and to them that keep thy commandments. O Lord, righteousness belongeth unto thee, but unto us the confusion of face, as it is this day, to the men of Judah and to the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and unto all Israel that are near and that are far off, through all the countries whither thou hast driven us, because of our trespass, that we trespassed against thee. As it is written in the laws of Moses, all this evil has come upon us in the land of our captivity, here in the Americas, Caribbean, Great Britain, Africa, and abroad. O Lord, according to all thy righteousness, I beseech thee, let thy anger and thy fury be turned away from thy city Jerusalem, and thy people, and thy holy mountain. O Lord, hear this prayer, and cause thy face to shine upon thy sanctuary and thy people, for your sake. O Lord, open your eyes and incline your ears to hear and to behold our condition. O Lord, hear. O Lord, forgive. O Lord, hearken and do, and defer not, for thy own sake. O my Lord, for thy people and your land need you desperately at this hour. Peace be unto you. Okay. So with that being said, I'm gonna read a psalm. Okay. 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 I'll read Psalms 138. I will praise thee with my whole heart. It's a psalm of David. Okay. I will praise thee with my whole heart. Before the gods will I sing praise unto thee. I will worship toward thy holy temple and praise thy name for thy loving kindness and for thy truth. For thou hast magnified thy word above all thy name. In the day when I cried, thou answered me and strengthened me with strength in my soul. And the kings of the earth shall praise thee, O Lord, when they hear the words of thy mouth. Yea, they shall sing in the ways of the Lord, for great is the glory of the Lord. Though the Lord be high, yet hath he respected unto the lowly, but the proud he knoweth afar off. Though I walk in the midst of trouble, thou wilt revive me. Though salt stretches forth, thou shalt stretch forth thy hand against the wrath of my enemies, and thy right hand shall save me. The Lord will perfect that which concerneth me. Thy mercy, O Lord, endure forever. Forsake not the works of thine own hands. Okay, those Psalms 138. It says, "I will praise thee with all my whole heart." So it's got a lot of stuff, and it's only 8 verses, but got a lot of a lot of meat in there. And one of them is we see that David said that in verse 3, "In the day when I cried unto thee, you answered me and strengthened me with strength in my soul." So that's one of the luxuries that our forefathers had that we don't have because of the curse. When they called him, he came, he showed up. And so that we don't have that luxury today. And then not only that, they knew who he was. So when they called him, he came. We've been given a false God. You can't get 2-3 people together to see that. So we calling out everybody but him. And then another one says David 7 and 8. Though I walk in the midst of trouble, thou will revive me. Thou shalt stretch forth thy hands against the wrath of my enemies, and thy right hand shall save me. Then verse 8 says, the Lord will perfect that which concerneth me. Thy mercy, O Lord, endure forever. Forsake not the works of thy own hand. Okay. Anybody else have any comments on that? Psalm 138. Okay, so with that being said, we're gonna go into some current events. Okay.
Similar to the 18th century Enlightenment, the period of John Locke, Benjamin Franklin, this whole idea they developed, which was the American experiment. What we are experiencing before the American Revolution is similar to where we are now. A great story told by John Adams and Benjamin Franklin is where they walk out of the Continental Congress and someone asks them, "What happened? What happened?" And Benjamin Franklin says, "Well, we have a republic if we can keep it." Because if we go back in time, Plato wrote a book called The Republic, and it was about all the different forms of government and all the cycles of government we go through. So we go through these cycles that include anarchy, mob rule, oligarchies, monarchies over and over again. And each century, we tend to think it's all totally different and unique, when in reality, it's never different or unique. It's all part of a cycle. So when Benjamin Franklin says, we have a republic if we can keep it, the backdrop of the story was the 13 colonies of the Continental Congress didn't agree on everything. So they all decided to write a letter to King George III about not liking the whole taxation without representation situation. And they thought Mother England was possibly not aware of how oppressive rules were affecting their society and was going to come to their aid. And when the king responded with a proclamation to everyone saying, "These people have written me a letter, they are all traitors, and we are going to hang and kill all of them," well, this is what ended up actually uniting all 13 colonies. Benjamin Franklin saying, "Wow, what we could not do to unite ourselves, the English king just did for us. For now, we either hang together or we shall surely hang separately." And this is what we are in the midst of. This is where we're at in the cycle. Hello, I'm Crypto Casey, and welcome to another episode of Crypto This Week. Let's take a look at the global news stories and state of the macro environment.
Military gadgets are changing.
Please be sure to check out our sponsors, HeatBit, Ledger, and Masterworks. Passively invest bag, and they will be forced to sell all those assets on their balance sheet at a loss, similar to what happened when all the banks collapsed back in March due to runs, and being forced to sell all their treasury bills at losses to liquidate to meet depositors' demand for cash. And although mainstream media has been lying, big surprise, reporting that everything is fine and the banking crisis is over, another bank is failing. First Republic Bank. Shares of First Republic fell sharply and hit a record low Tuesday, as investors questioned how the bank would stabilize itself after losing about 40% of its deposits during the first quarter. First Republic stock fell more than 40% on Tuesday, extending its to-date losses beyond 90%. It hit a record intraday low at $8.27 per share. Also on the consumer front, credit card debt is at record high as the Fed raises rates again. And as we've talked about in this video, you can check out by clicking on the link above, it's seeming more and more every day as if this was all by design. Check out this clip from SEC Chair Gary Gensler's testimony before Congress last week.
One final question, and I gotta be honest, I don't know how you're gonna answer it, so I'm kind of excited. So in 2014, Jared Bernstein published an op-ed in the New York Times titled "Dethrone, quote, King Dollar," where Mr. Bernstein advocated for the U.S. government to actively take steps to remove the dollar as the global reserve currency. President Biden has now nominated him to be the head of his Council of Economic Advisors, all while the Chinese are actively undermining the dollar as a global reserve currency, and their successes are increasing both in number and at an ever-increasing rate. Do you agree with Mr. Bernstein that the U.S. government should take steps to actively remove the dollar as the global reserve currency? We agree. I really appreciate that. It's disappointing that the president is nominating someone that disagrees with both of our positions on this. If we do lose the dollar, the cost of import goods will skyrocket. We'll lose our ability to borrow at current levels. Inflation will be higher than our...
Yes, Jared Bernstein, who has advocated to dethrone the king dollar as the world's reserve currency, has been nominated to be head of the President's Council of Economic Advisors. And in more recent news, we've seen some pretty drastic announcements from the political sphere and mainstream media. Here's a tweet summarizing what's happened so far. Susan Rice, gone. BuzzFeed, dead. Vice News, possibly next. CEO of MSNBC, resigned. Don Lemon from CNN, gone. Bongino from Fox, gone. Carlson from Fox, gone. Big shakeups in the media. And to top it all off, Biden makes it official. He's running again in 2024. President makes formal announcement to run for a second term. No major Democratic contender has emerged to challenge Biden, when just the other day, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. formally announces run for president. And just when things couldn't get any weirder, the Democratic National Committee announced they have no plans to hold primary debates because there are simply no other candidates. Well, Democrats ripped DNC for not holding 2024 primary debates, saying it robs the voters. Also, in response to news that the Democratic National Committee has no plans to host any Democratic Party primary debates in the upcoming election cycle, Twitter owner Elon Musk declared that his platform will support the campaign messages from all 2024 presidential candidates. The billionaire engaged with Twitter users Tuesday who were frustrated with the DNC announcement. He told them Twitter will give each candidate a voice. Something strange is definitely afoot. So instead of arguing about Democrats versus Republicans, we need to accept the fact that the United States has essentially a one-party system. And the ruling party is the business party. Big businesses and corporate cronies buy media, to buy elections, to buy politicians, to buy favorable frameworks in order to make a profit. And it all stems from a legal concept called corporate personhood, which we discuss in this video guide. You can check out by clicking on the link above. Mainstream media is all lies. We need to stop consuming all the garbage they put out because it's designed to keep us distracted, divided, poor, dumb, scared, barely alive, and essentially profit centers for big corporations. And one of the main issues that will determine whether or not U.S. citizens are completely and utterly enslaved and controlled by media, the government, and ultimately big business's agenda is if a CBDC, or central bank digital currency, is created and enforced for all legal transactions in the United States. And if you want to learn why, check out this video guide by clicking on the link above. What's great right now is regardless of your party affiliation, there is anti-CBDC and pro-Bitcoin and pro-crypto policy candidates running on both sides when it comes to both presidential and congressional incumbents. So it's more important than ever for all of us to get politically active and participate in the most important election in modern history. And what's great is it only takes about 5 minutes. So check out this guide by clicking on the link above to learn all about it. Cool. As we've been working together, the U.S. banking system seems to be undergoing a systematic collapse, all by design, to benefit a few at the expense and to the detriment of us all. A credit crunch has started as banks tighten lending by the most on record. Morgan Stanley CIO says the steepest decline in lending on record in just the last 2 weeks. It's worse than what happened during the 2008 recession. More Americans are using buy now, pay later services to pay for groceries. And now over 27% of buy now, pay later users do so as bridge loans to survive until their next paycheck. More Americans are now at risk of getting their cars repossessed because with rising interest rates and tightened lending standards, these loans are for over 150% of the actual value of the car at around $20,000 with 18% interest rates, causing the average car payment to be about $730 per month. And the cost to maintain and fix cars over the past year is up 12%. So the average hardworking Americans, the ones who need a car the most to get to work and barely survive, can't afford one and can't get one. Banks are taking away people's access to capital, loans, and lending at an unprecedented rate, all while people are maxing out credit cards, barely surviving on buy now, pay later loans, losing their jobs, and delinquencies across all types of debt are on the rise. All while politicians in our government sold bank shares before the banking crisis started. At least 9 members of U.S. Congress sold bank stocks amid turmoil last month. Disclosures show one representative on the House Financial Services Committee sold SVB shares a day before it collapsed. A central bank digital currency to effectively enslave us all. I mean, the government, big businesses, and their mainstream media apparatus knows they are quickly losing credibility, and people are looking for alternatives. Alternatives to mainstream media, alternatives to the US dollar, alternatives to 9-to-5 jobs, alternatives to politicians currently in power, alternatives to living in the United States at large. And so at this point, the only way they can maintain their power is by forcing us all into using a fiat currency they completely control and program in order to institute a social credit system where if we don't submit and capitulate to their agenda, we lose our money, property, freedom, and basically our ability to live. That's pretty much the only way they can achieve their goal at this point. And they've been actively working on seeing it come to fruition with the institution of the Fed Now payment system. And actually, they are already starting to replace our traditional credit scoring system this May. Buyers with good credit will soon start paying higher mortgage rates. Borrowers with high credit scores will be penalized under the new federal mortgage fee plan. Biden's rule will redistribute high-risk loan costs to homeowners with good credit, all while interest rates for mortgages have roughly doubled over the past year. Not only is this socialist and tyrannical, it's a sign that the old credit scoring system is on the way out and a new one is being ushered in. In fact, also last week, during SEC Chair Gary Gensler's testimony in front of Congress, he revealed that social credit scoring is pretty much already being used. Check out this clip.
Look, I mean, right now you can sweep the data up from your automobile driving. It's called telematics. You can sweep up your social media usage and sort of based upon that, decide how to underwrite and make a loan. There's research, actually, interesting research that shows that if you capitalize your letters for pronouns in your emails, you're better credit than if you don't. I'm giving you a sway a little bit. If you charge your phone every night, you're better credit. Believe it or not. So now, what if it happens to be that people that capitalize their letters are of a certain race or ethnicity or gender, and it has nothing to do with credit, but then we're embedding something into the systems which has inherent biases. So yes, I think you're right to have that consideration.
Yes.
Okay. Any comments on that?
So basically they're saying, whether if you have good credit or bad credit, your payments are still going to be, very high, because of the interest rate. So you have people that's out here fighting to get a certain type of credit score when it doesn't even really matter.
Right. Exactly. Oh yeah. Like she said, they monitor everything you do. So when they make a decision on you, they go into your social media platforms and find out who you are and make a decision based off of that. Like you said, if you politically correct, when you capitalize all your capital letters and all that, you got a better chance of getting by doing that than having a good credit score. Because they're monitoring.
Right.
Right. You know something? And like you said, you charge your phone every night. Ain't that something? That's how hard they watch it. You know how many times you charge your phone? On your phone?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We have also decided that if we're not going to be business as usual, we have these meetings, Africa, US meeting, Africa, Europe, Africa, Turkey, Africa, India. Now we are waiting for, there is another one, Africa, Russia. And Africa, Japan. And Africa, Japan. We have made the decision that it is not intelligent for 54 of us to go and sit before one gentleman from another place. And I mean, and sometimes we are mistreated. Yeah. You know, we are loaded into buses like school chiefs. You know, and it's not right. Well, you are summoned. You know, it's not right. So the decision that we have made as AU is that going forward, if there is going to be a discussion between Africa and any other country, we are going to be represented by the chair, the outgoing chair, the income, the bureau. Let the commission and the chair, and the chair of the recs, and we have 5 recs. That should be sufficient for, I mean, a meeting of maybe 6, 7, Yeah. That should be able to represent Africa. And that is the position I am taking as the president of Kenya. For any other meeting that we are going to have with all these requests that we have a meeting between Africa and one other country. We respect the sovereignty of others. I think to ask for reciprocation is not to ask for too much. And for us to agree that let us have this kind of setup. The only, because I had a conversation with President Kagame and he actually led that particular position. I have had a conversation with Prime Minister Abiy. He believes very strongly that that should be the position of our continent. Because, as you have said, if we don't respect ourselves, nobody is going to respect us. And we should be able to take that kind of decision. And part of that respecting ourselves is when we say African problems, African solutions. We must be serious about the solutions. It cannot be rhetoric. It cannot be talk. It must be accompanied by what realistically and practically we are doing. And what is our capacity? Yeah. No, this is 60 years after the formation of the Africa Union. We cannot continue to depend on Europe, the EU, the US, China, and I don't know which other place to manage our own affairs. I think it is time. And that is why we took the decision in DRC. We didn't look for resources from, I don't know which organization. We used Kenyan resources. Wagner, you heard about Wagner? Yeah, we are at Uganda. We agreed that every country should deploy troops using their own resources because we need to take charge of our region. These are our issues. We need to deal with the security of our region because if we do not deal with the security of our region, we are foregoing opportunities of investment, of job creation, of growing our economies, and we are basically working against ourselves. Without peace, there is no development. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, but let me ask you a question. Even the situation in Sudan, we were having a conversation, I know it's your country, we are having a conversation in Uganda day before yesterday. Yeah. And we were having the conversation on how IGAD, unfortunately, the chairmanship of IGAD is currently in Sudan. So it becomes very difficult because he is a Sudanese guy, make him chairman. Yeah. In absence of a legal government, we volunteer this guy. In fact, when Sudan was given the chairmanship, it was because of Hamdok here, when it was a civilian government. But now we have a general, you know. So that is our region. So we were having that candid conversation because we believe it is our responsibility. Yeah. We were having a conversation with Musa yesterday because we believe as AU, we should sort out these problems. Let me ask you a question here. And we have what it takes to sort out these problems. That's wonderful, but in the sake of one country bearing the brunt, I mean, this should disturb Musa. Musa, I perfectly understand. He's your friend. No, you're not. He perfectly understands. We have the wrong architecture in the management of the African Union. Yes.
Okay. Any comments on that? Yeah, so when you start seeing African leaders talking like that, you can expect all hell to break out over there in Africa. I think it's right now it's like about 4 or 5 of them talking like he talking. Okay. I got some need to know information right here.
Partner, Kirsten Mullen, about the racial wealth gap between African Americans and white Americans and how reparations to African Americans could help close it. He co-authored his most recent book titled From Here to Equality, Reparations for Black Americans in the 21st Century with Kirsten Mullen. Kirsten is a folklorist and the founder of Artifactual. Thank you both for joining me today. Who should be financially responsible for paying reparations to Black Americans?
Federal government must pay this debt. This is the entity that gave itself the authority to enslave Black Americans and to institute nearly a century of legal segregation. When we're talking about legal segregation, we're not only talking about keeping Black people separate from white people, we're also talking about nearly a century of white terror attacks on Black communities. And these were focused on primarily 2 different things: turning a blind eye to the destruction of Black people's property. And in some cases, the federal government was party to those destructions. So you're talking about the seizure and appropriation of Black property. The federal government is also the only entity that has the capacity to pay the debt. So the federal government is both the culpable and the capable party and should pay the debt.
People are arguing that the federal government should be footing the bill for these reparations, but does that mean that the cost would ultimately be passed on to the taxpayers?
Not necessarily.
We make the point in the final chapter of our book that there have been a number of recent instances in which the federal government has made huge expenditures without raising taxes. One of those instances is the substantial expenditures the federal government made to address the health crisis associated with COVID. You don't necessarily have to raise taxes to undertake these massive expenditure projects. However, you do have to be concerned about the inflationary effects of these types of projects. And what we suggest in From Here to Equality is that there are 2 major steps that could be taken to minimize the inflation risk. One of those steps is to spread the payment of the $14 trillion out over several years. We recommend no more than 10 years or a decade, but that would reduce the amount of annual expenditure that would be needed. And then the second thing that could be done to minimize the inflation risk is to provide people with these funds in the form of an asset that is somewhat different from a direct cash transfer, something that's less liquid, that they cannot spend entirely all at one time. This could include giving them reparations in the form of an annuity or a trust account or some type of an endowment where there were limitations on the amount that could be spent at each moment. But the key thing is that ultimately the discretion for the use of the funds must reside with the recipients.
Hi, Cecily. I just switched my whole family to Verizon.
What is America's most reliable?
Okay.
who is eligible for reparations should be Black descendants of individuals who were enslaved in the United States. And we propose that there are two criteria that would be relevant for determining eligibility in this context. The first of these is what we refer to as a lineage standard. An individual would have to demonstrate that they have at least one ancestor who was enslaved in the United States of America. And secondly, an individual would have to meet what we refer to as an identity standard. So for at least 12 years before the adoption of a reparations plan or the enactment of a study commission for reparations, an individual would have to demonstrate that they self-identified on a legal document as Black, Negro, African American, or Afro-American. And we argue that this is the relevant population for reparations because this is the community that has descended from the folks who were promised 40-acre land grants by the federal government as restitution for their years of bondage. And this was a promise that was not kept. At the same time, the federal government was giving 1.5 million white families 160-acre land grants in the Western Territories under the Homestead Act of 1862. And this is the foundation for the racial wealth gap.
Why is it important that monetary reparations be made specifically to African Americans as opposed to a broader group, such as Black Americans, which would include Caribbean Americans, possibly African immigrants, or expanded to the broader umbrella of people of color, which includes other racial groups as well?
So we are focusing on the descendants of the individuals who were promised those 40-acre land grants and denied them. You know, these are folks who had the promise of the opportunity to build wealth and, importantly, to pass that wealth on to their children. This is not the case of the more recent immigrants. We know that, for the most part, you know, unless your family was part of the diplomatic corps, Black people from the Caribbean and from the continent were not in the United States in large numbers until the late 60s. They did not experience enslavement in this country. Their ancestors did not experience Jim Crow in this country. They did not experience maybe 100 years of racialized terror against their families in this country. Yes, it is indeed quite likely that many of these individuals have a case that can be made for reparations, but not to the United States government. For individuals who are from Antigua or from Jamaica would take their case for reparations to the UK. Our histories are not the same. You know, there's a huge difference between being forced to come to this country in shackles versus coming voluntarily for the opportunities that you believe are, you know, will be available to you. Our research suggests very strongly that the more narrowly, the more specific these claims are, the more likely they are to be supported.
Okay, any comments on that? Okay, no comments. Okay, I'm gonna open it up for some Q&A questions or comments. Anybody got any comments from last night, this morning, during the week they want to expound on, talk about? Okay, you play this here. Then we go into the
This
rest.
is Cheryl. Last night was really, really good. I really enjoyed it and learned a lot. I would have to apologize that I was very tired. And but
Okay.
yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, appreciate that. Okay, I'm gonna play this right here, and then we go into the lesson.
Very, very much appreciate it. Give me just a moment here. I'm going to share this, asking that you do the same. Then we're going to get right into this. All right. Okay, you all just saw the previous broadcast that we just did. Very, very important topic. Needed to be said. Most importantly, needs to be adhered to. These are not simple matters that we are dealing with. We are dealing with something very complex, as a matter of fact, very spiritual. We have to understand what's going on. When we talk about these things, we look at them from a prophetic standpoint, a biblical standpoint. We see these things, how the Most High sees them, that this is not just a simple earthly topic. Oh, what are we talking about today? No, this is very serious stuff, especially when lives and souls are at stake. Okay? Some of our people think that talking about curses and things of that nature is this negative talk. Come on now. What's more negative is not to know why you are cursed. We need to get an understanding of what's happening in our communities, because to other people it looks strange. That's why the Bible said that these people would look at us with a shaking of the head. Shaking of the head, meaning they think, look at that, that is just really, really despicable. They're just going to look at. Now, some of these people have sins just as great as ours, but they don't see their own. Even that was prophesied. It said that they would do things to us, to our people, and find themselves not guilty. So they can't see. They refuse to see, right? But they can see very clearly the sins of our people. You know why they can see the sins of our people? Because there was a mandate put on us. That mandate that was put on us is to be what? The light. The light of the world. It was commanded that we be the light of the world. See now what's going forth. Listen, y'all. Listen to this. We're supposed to be the light of the world, but Satan has transformed himself into an angel of light. So what more for his ministers, those who do his bidding? Oh, come and get your food basket with a turkey and all this stuff so you can have Thanksgiving dinner, right? But you got to sit through this service first. We're going to have a church service, right? So you go, you sit there through the service. You have to hear them preach on their little do-good moments. Mm-hmm. Yep. The General War Man, they make you sit in the service first. Yeah. So after you sit in the service and you hear the preacher speak lies and hypocrisy into your ears, then you get the food basket. It's teaching right here. I want to talk about it separately. But Black women, if you have sons that you are raising alone, they need to understand. They need to understand how things work. You need to get them out of these public schools, if at all possible, because this is where they learn a lot of the mess that they learn. This is where they learn a lot of this mess. They get caught up with girls. Some of them getting caught up with boys who like boys, and teachers and all kinds of things, not to mention the indoctrination that they receive through the teaching itself. If we saw these institutions as a detriment to us, then we would prioritize figuring out a way to relieve them of that. I know that it's easier said than done, family. I know it. This is why the family has been attacked so. It's been attacked so much so to where husband and wife broken apart, or they were never married to begin with, making babies that one or both of the parents are not involved with. And so these children are just being brought into a world of chaos. Brought into a world of chaos. Now, there is a whole line of things that we need to teach our sons on how to avoid the curses of their fathers. Some of these things we're going to be talking about as we continue on with the Black Boy Kings book series. That's not just about teaching them about the kings of old. It's teaching them about an attack on their minds. I know that the series itself, the first book was released, but the second part is almost done. It's a reason why our young people need to hear the things that they need to hear, because the world is teaching them that it's okay to do this, it's okay to do that. It's our job to teach our children, period, that no, that is not okay. The world is telling our sons, hey, it's okay for you to like other boys. It's teaching our daughters that it's okay for you to like girls. That's what the world is teaching our children. And they're trying to give you a slap on your hand for teaching them otherwise. Like you are wrong.
Okay. Any comments on that? We were just talking about that last night, and it came up a little bit this morning. Now, you want to watch all of that. It's black women need to teach their sons how to avoid their father's curses. Any comments? Okay, so like I said, the topic that's inside the class is the Book of Lamech uncovered. And so you're probably saying, what's the Book of Lamech? Last night it came up. I was talking about a situation came up. We was talking about Enoch, and then excuse me, Cain had a son called Enoch, and then they built a city. The first city that was built was called Enoch, and it was built by Cain and his some of his descendants. So let's read that first. Then we're gonna branch out from that, connect some dots. Okay, so it says in Genesis chapter 4, chapter 4, verse 16, and what we're looking at is Cain descendants. And notice that Cain descendants is separated. Adam descendants is in chapter 5 of Genesis, starting with Seth, because Cain killed Abel. Then starting with Seth, but over here in 4 and starting at verse 16, Cain descendants. And they separated because they got two different daddies. Abel and Cain got two different daddies. Okay, it says, 16 says that Cain went out from the presence of the Lord, and he dwelt in the land of Nod on the east of Eden. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Enoch. And he built a city, called the name of the city after the name of his son Enoch. So right here, we already see, if you pay attention, that there's a whole lot more going on with those two verses. But they don't want you, they somebody else that made a decision. They don't want you to know the whole story. They got agenda, so they're only giving you 16 and 17, then they move on to something else. And that's one example. The other example is in the very next chapter, chapter 5, Enoch. We see right here in 21. Enoch lived 65 years. No, we're going back some more. 19. Genesis chapter 5, verse 19. And Jared lived after he begot Enoch 800 years, and he begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Jared were 962 years, and he died. And then it says Enoch lived 65 years and begot Methuselah. And Enoch walked with God after he begot Methuselah 300 years, and he begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Enoch was 365 years. And Enoch walked with God, and he was not, but God took him. Then 25, that's it. They jumped to Methuselah. Now we know that Enoch got a whole book with 90-some chapters in it. So look at all the information that's being hidden. So between this book, this city of Enoch and not knowing what's going on in it, and then what happened with Enoch, you know, you going off, you way off the track on what's the Bible trying to tell you. Yeah, let me get rid of this clown, man. Okay. Yeah. So you just those two stories, those two narratives right there, you can see that it's a whole bunch of information, and this beginning of our story, our history right here. And so the city of Enoch, and the city of Enoch, and then the life of Enoch, and what there's two different Enochs. First of all, you have to understand it's two different lineages, but the boys, because of the serpent, he's starting out right here tricking us. You got two Enochs. Cain got a son called Enoch, and Adam had a son called Enoch. And the information that was going on in the city of Enoch and Enoch himself, they took the story, took out most of the information. So what I'm doing right here is I'm dealing with the book of Lamech. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's called the book of the Lamech of Cain. And in that book, it's describing to you what was going on in that city, that was inside those two verses. They don't want you to know what was going on in there. So anyway, another thing about these books is that's detrimental is if you go to right here, they put glitches and tricks in here. So in order for it to work, they had to take some of these books out, some of the information. So for example, this right here, then we go into the book of Lamech. Let me get it. What happened to Cain? They don't want you to know what happened to Cain. So it says when Cain killed his brother, right? It says, let's look at it. Chapter 4, verse 10. It says, the curse of Cain. It says, and he said, what hast thou done? The voice of thy brother crieth unto me from the ground, and now thou art cursed from the earth, which have opened her mouth to receive thy brother's blood from on thy hand. When thou tillest the ground, it shall not give forth strength. A fugitive and a vagabond shall thou be in the earth. And Cain said unto the Lord, my punishment is greater than I can bear, right? And behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the earth, and from the face shall I be hid, and I will be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth. And it shall come to pass that everyone that findeth me shall slay me. And the Lord said unto him, therefore, whosoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And then he says, and the Lord set a mark upon Cain, lest anyone finding him shall kill him. So they got all these different narratives, which is that's how Esau works. He gonna snow you in with all these different supposed narratives where you can't get the truth of the matter. Like I was saying with this morning with Cain descendants. You go to Genesis, everywhere you go in the Bible, he got a problem with Japhet. So just off of that alone, how in the hell is he his son? They brothers. I was Shem, the Israelites, and the Japhet and a king. Everywhere in the scriptures, most I got a problem with him, against him. He even tell them, don't let your sons marry them. Don't let your daughters marry their sons. So how are they brothers? It's crazy. So anyway, we see right here, they snow us in with all these narratives about it was a mark on his ear, or they put an earring in his ear, and all this, something, a mark on his forehead, all this, and saying that all this. So when we go to the book of Lamech, it's gonna tell you exactly what happened. Let me read it. In the book of Lamech, it says Cain, the forefather of Lamech, was marked with leprosy, white as snow. For God has said, whomever slays Cain shall have vengeance visited upon their head sevenfold. as Abel blood cried from the ground, a leprosy was made a sign that was visited upon Cain's descendants, as it were these inheritance for 7 generations. So the mark is he turning white. And so how we know that that's what he's doing all through the scripture. You get Hannah, Elijah's servant, turned in white. Mary turned her white. So it ain't all this a mark on his ear and somebody cut him on the forehead and all that garbage. He turned him white. And when you understand that you can turn your head to the left or the right and see white folks everywhere. That's the reason why they can trick you off with that. You know, like I said, we was talking this morning about the Greeks. Greeks one was huddling up in gymnasiums, buck naked in the gymnasium. Now they got us out walking all around in the gymnasium. We don't have no idea of the origins of the gymnasium. Okay, and not only that, when JC was on the scene, if you wondering about him, they had built the gymnasium in Jerusalem. They talk about the walk he took from Mount Calvary. I mean, from Mount of Olives to the cross. And they ain't tell you about the gym that was there. There was a gymnasium there. That killed the whole story right there. Because the Israelites ain't dealing with no gym. You know, the narrative been hooked up, been sabotaged. Okay, so anyway, Cain tells you right here, this book of Lamech tells you exactly what happened. He turned him white and his descendants, just like he did Gehazi, turned him white. The only reason Miriam was recovered her skin was because Moses was there. So that's what the deal is. And then that's the God. That's one of the characteristics of our God that nobody seems to know too. You make the wrong move, you turn you white. Nobody reference that, or nobody out. That's not a fear that's in nobody's heart, because they don't know it first of all, and then he can turn his face away from us. But back in the day, you make the wrong move and look up, you be pale. Okay, so let's go with I want to read this out of Genesis first. I just read it, but I'm gonna read it again. It says, chapter 4, verse 16. Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and dwelt in the land of Nod, east of Eden. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Enoch, and he built a city, called the name of the city. So now let's go into Lamech and see what was going on in the city. You'd be surprised. So it says, let me get it. Okay, yeah, chapter 8 of the book of Lamech. So it says, Lamech had a daughter. Lamech had a daughter by his wife Zillah, named Naamah. And Naamah was born pale. See that? There we go again. You know why she was born pale now? Because Cain was turned white. It says, and not with a complete mark of the line of Cain. See that? The line of Cain. Naamah was beautiful and pleasant before the eyes of all, and known in the city of Enoch for her singing. Right? And Lamech, Jubal, and Tubal-Cain, being all warned Naamah of the sons of God. Right? So let's go back to what the guy was breaking down last night about the ziggurat. These fallen angels was coming down, and what these people had did was they set up what they said Nimrod built. All Nimrod doing is picking up what they was doing. So they built a place for them to come down on. Normally they ascend down on mountains, but they built inside the city a place for them to ascend on. Then they come down and come into the city. So this is what's going on in the city. So he says, so it's fallen angels, just like Sodom and Gomorrah, just like over in the tribe of Benjamin, that tributary tribe that was attached to Benjamin, the sons of Beli, they was it was giants, fallen angels intermingling. They want you to know all this that was going on. They was interacting, and all, you know, that's how they was, what was going on. So it says, Lamech and Jubal and Tubal Cain, this Cain descendants in Genesis chapter 4. We ain't got to fumble with it. Lamech, Jubal, Jubal, and Tubal Cain, then warned them, that's their sister, of the sons of God, of these angels, these fallen angels, that they perverted, they nasty. So they warned them, right? Then it says, the sons of God in the city of Enoch. So, and the sons of God in the midst of the city of Enoch were mighty. They had power and authority, and they had their way with anyone that they laid their hands on. So here go to some homosexuality right here. So they men, women, you know, it don't matter to them. They was messing with men and women. But let's look at it. Let's go all the way in. Okay, so it says the sons of God in the midst of the city of Enoch. Now let's go back. Like I said, you got all these holes and taking you down all these roads. Like I say, these Edomites is scribes, which is lawyers. And a lawyer, he a pro at tricking y'all. So we see right here in Genesis chapter 3. Let me get it. Yeah, Genesis chapter 3. It says, nope, go, yeah, chapter 3, verse 1. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field, which the Lord God had made. And he said unto the woman, yea, of God said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden. And the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit trees. See that? Fruit trees, apples, oranges, pears, plum trees. We can eat of the fruit trees, but here we go. But the fruit of the tree, which is in the midst of the garden. See that? So now let's go back. See, they can fumble with it and put it in a strong concordance and all that and try to make it mean something else, but we're gonna do it a simple way. So right here it says, and the sons of God in the midst of the city of Enoch. So what's the difference in this mist than the mist in the garden? So what's in the city of Enoch? Angels. Well, what's in the garden? Angels. Samuel and Michael. That's the two trees in the midst of the garden. Okay, so anyway, it says they had power and authority, and they had their way with anyone they had laid their hands on, laid their hands upon. So let's go back. We're gonna break this all the way down. Okay, so he said anyone that they laid their hands on. So let's look at it. Let's go back. You say, what is the Negro talking about? They had sex. So it says, the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field, which the Lord God had made. And he said unto the woman, yea, have God said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit trees of the garden, but the fruit of the tree, that's him, tree which is in the midst of the garden, God has said, now here you go. Anyone, he just told you in the book, in the city of Lamech, anyone that laid their hands on, what they doing when they lay their hands on? They're doing a wild thing. So he says, ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. Lay your hands on it. There it is. They fumbling with it. Okay? All right, let's go back to Lamech. Okay. So they gave you this book of Lamech. We already know they didn't tamper with it, but they left all the right things. This is how the Most High work. They left all the right things and took out all the wrong things. That's what the Most High said he's going to do in the last days. So it says, and the sons of God in the midst of the city of Enoch were mighty, and they had power and authority, and they had their way with anyone they laid their hands upon. And the sons of God showed man how to mix the blood. You know, as there was the Most High told, we just said, don't let your sons marry these people. How they kin folks? Don't let your son marry their daughters, the Gentile. Don't let your son marry their daughter. Don't let your daughter marry their son. So these clowns that showed man how to mix the blood. See that? and other abominations in the city of Enoch. The sons of God were extravagant and ruled over the city of Enoch with misery. See that? That's another characteristic. Homosexuality is one, and oppression, bringing oppression is another characteristic of these giants. They didn't lost their height, but we still can identify them. And white, pale. So we ain't gonna fumble with it. And there was not rest in their it said, and there was no rest in their hatred. Yeah, you see the same hatred today. The lynchings, cop killings, right? With their misery. They mock men with songs for the destruction of the wicked is singing. So you think what was going on in Sodom and Gomorrah was something. And now you see why we can't find a trace of the city of Enoch. Because the Most High wiped it off the map, just like Sodom and Gomorrah, right? And so yes, he go to some of the violence that was going on in the city. And there was violence on the earth, and violence in all things. But there were women, less women, and men continuously sought strange flesh for gratification, sexual gratification. The wrath of the living things was a force that the earth had never seen. Evil spread like locusts, resting upon every part of the land, and there never will be. Look at this. There never will be evil such as that did. So everybody free in just Sodom and Gomorrah, but they don't know about what was going on in the city of Enoch. Okay. Men then uncovered. Look at this. We're gonna answer this. All these, crosses they didn't throw. This the Noah situation. Men then uncover the nakedness of their fathers and their mothers. See that? There you go, telling you what it means. So it ain't no homosexual act. Noah's wife is his nakedness. So that places a woman right there. You can't have sex by yourself. You got a woman there in the garden. Serpent came in the garden, beguiled her. What he beguiled the air? No, it's a woman in the garden. He beguiled her. What he trying to do? Have sex. They don't want you to know all this. They say men did uncover the nakedness of their fathers and their mothers. They uncovered the nakedness of their brothers, see that? And sisters, and the nakedness of their own children. And men approached their blood relatives to uncover their nakedness. So let's look at it. So this, like I was saying before, it's with the Gentile. If you want to believe the Gentile is Shem's kinfolks, look at what they're doing. We see right here, it's a priority. It's part of their DNA, the molestation and the perversion. So now come to the day. What we got going on? We got a whole sex trafficking ring, Pizzagate, all that with little kids going on, because that's part of their culture. They ain't gonna stop doing that, but they gotta hide it from us. It's like they hid it in the scriptures. They hide it today. Because you so blind with JC. And we can't deal with the scriptures for what they say, for what the prophets, Most High had the prophets write down for us. We can't even deal with it. Okay? This the purpose of JC. Right here. You can't see none of this called the JC. So it says, let me get it. It say they were men then uncovered the nakedness of their fathers and their mothers. They uncovered the nakedness of their brothers and their sisters and the nakedness of their own children, right? And men approached their blood relatives to uncover their nakedness, sharing all that was carnal within their families. And the prize was to uncover a woman's nakedness during her menstrual impurities. See that? They were more carnal than any man who had ever walked the earth ever since. But they did not have the understanding of man. For carnal men knew, and for carnal men know, and fools understand. So we see right here, subhuman. All the characteristics that didn't tag on us. It's who they are. See that? Okay. And then we go, like I said, you ain't gotta go far. Just you can get a freeze pop and just pull up on the side of Walmart and sit there in your car. You're gonna see all these degenerates. We fumbling with it. All these degenerates getting out the cars. It ain't just happen, just coincidence. And the only reason we having them, because we intermingling with them. We mixing with their blood, like he told us. Don't deal with that. So it says, blood sacrifices were offered with leaven. For the bread of the wickedness was blood sacrifices were offered with leaven. For the bread of wickedness was fresh, and the wine of violence intoxicated all living things, and the curses fell from the mouths of men and into the earth throughout all day and night, and the earth was burnt from the wickedness, and the desolation grew as men cursed all, cursing their fathers and mothers, cursing their fathers and women, cursed by mothers, and all that live cursed and blasphemed all. For wickedness loved and violence, say for the wicked love the violence with all their souls, and the violence covered them like garments. So let's look at that. He said, blood sacrifices were offered with leaven. Ain't that the opposite that he tell us? Passover and all that, no leaven. It's the opposite. Blood sacrifices were offered with leaven. For the bread of the wickedness was fresh, and the wine of violence intoxicated all living things, and all curses fell from the mouths of men and into the earth throughout all the day and night. So let's look at that. So where we at now? We sitting there with a truckload of curses on us, but they was on them. They tricked us off the curses on us. See that? Blood sacrifices were offered with leaven, for the bread of the wicked was fresh, and the wine of violence intoxicated all living things, and curses fell from the mouths of men into the earth throughout all day and night. It was on them, the curses. And the earth was burnt from the wickedness, and the desolation grew as men cursed all, cursing the fathers, and women cursed their mothers, right? And all that lived cursed and blasphemed all. For the wicked loved the violence with all their soul, and violence covered them like a garment. Now, you say you should be registered. Now we see why you had 40,000 people at a lynching. Come on. Now it makes sense. Okay? So then it said Lamech warned Nahum of the sons of God. So this is Lamech, his father, telling the daughter. Lamech warned Nahum with these words: beware of the sons of God, my daughter. Stay away from them, for their intentions to you are not of this earth. And Nahum said, do you not govern all this land with your Leviathan? Am I not safe if I eat bread and let my heart be merry with the sons of God? So like I said, we see all the answers right here. So she's saying that we know she got a right to do what she want to do. But it's already been stated, you don't deal with these fallen angels. But she said, turn around and say she want to do what she want to do. Let me show you who Nahum is. People don't know who Nahum is. Okay. But like I said, it could have trained a baboon to do this once the information started being distributed. So we over in Genesis chapter 4. And I'm in verse 22. This Cain descendants, Japhet, verse 22. And Zillah, she also bore Tubal-Cain, right? The instructor so remember, Tubal-Cain was one of the boys that warned Nahum about don't deal with, don't go to the city of Enoch. And Zillah, she also bore Tubal-Cain, an instructor, 22. The instructor of every artificial brass and iron, and the sister of Tubal was Nahum. There she go right there. So now I know anybody else been in the church house always said, why all of a sudden they name a woman? Over here in chapter 5, it's all men. But over here in Cain's lineage, all of a sudden in verse 22, Naaman name come up. They felt the need to tell you about Naaman. See that? Now we see why. Okay. So anyway, go back over here. So it says, and Naaman was seduced, right? Just like Eve was. Right? Like I said, I believe these same words. Matter of fact, I know these same words was in the story of Adam in the garden. They tricked them out. So it says, and Naaman was seduced, point blank. We know what that means. By those whose genital organs was the size of a beast of the field, and whose I don't know how to say that, how to say it in a nice way, but yeah, was discharged. Okay, say in the field whose discharge was not was that of a horse, and Naaman lusted after the sons of God, and Lamech, Tubal-Cain, Jabal, Jubal, all gnashed their teeth and ground their jaws, and dreamed of death and revenge upon the Nephilim, the giants. And Naaman did worship the sons of God, as were the practice at that time. And she did practice divination, spells, resurrection with them. See that? Resurrection with them. So it ain't just come out of nowhere with the story when they attach JC to resurrection. And men in that day changed it. Look at this. Men in that day changed into beasts. And the beasts changed into men. Shapeshift. And men yielded to the beast and the birds to lie with them. And men were raped mightily. And those between the lands of the dead and the living that made it. Them as well. And the Ketara was among them. And men came in unto the beast, and the beast came unto men, and the earth groaned for all the sexual depravity. See that? It's all about sex. They don't want you to know that. And Naaman chose to lay with them, and they treated her like a whore. And she became a whore of the daughters of Cain. And the price of the impure, pious whore was the price of a loaf of bread. And all the sons of God committed fornication and lived deliciously with her. And Naaman was both a deep ditch and a narrow pit. And as a whore deriving a gift, she marked them open. So let's look at this. This right here, this is Tuesday. You gotta let it firm made. It says for the okay, you're gonna get it right. Yeah. And all the sons of God committed fornication and lived deliciously with her. Do that ring a bell? Anybody? Does that ring a bell for anybody? Let me read it again. It's gonna shock and amaze you. And all the sons of God committed fornication and lived deliciously with her. That don't ring no bell?
Yes, sir.
Revelation.
Yes,
Revelation.
sir.
See, but they saying they got you think it's another woman, some kind of a city, or you know what I'm saying? But look at it's this word for word. So it says, let me get it. Yeah, it said all the sons of God committed fornication and lived deliciously with her, Naaman. But the same phrase is in Revelations. Come on. Like I said, once it's in when you get to the truth, you find out just how ignorant these people were. Come on, let that from me. Anyway, so it says, and one day Naaman was in the open square drunk. Here we go. Go back to Revelations. And one day Naaman was in the open square drunk with the blood of the sons of God. For they served it to her in a ordinary chalice. See that? And Lamech saw her and wondered with great admiration. There it is again. And Lamech saw her and wondered with great admiration. Ain't that what? You see Revelations? He said, talking to him, and he saw the woman, and he wondered with great admiration. Come on. It says, for the giants and the men and the sons of God all mingled with Naomi. She wore her gold and her pearls and sat upon the waters. There it is again. There's a woman in Revelation sitting on the water, decked in gold and pearls. Come on, the water. And she was loved by all, and none saw desolation when she was near, and those that wanted to tear her clothes from her and eat her flesh, all had a change of heart when they looked in her eyes. And she took her harp and walked about the city of Enoch, singing like a forgotten whore, and none remembered how she had sung before. So let's go all the way in, because it's layers to this. So
Sir?
we see, comment, go ahead.
Right there, it seems like the mermaid, now she's up on the water, and then in that show of the mermaid, she got her legs and she walked upon, she was a good singer, and then she got her legs and walked on earth, on the dry land. Is that
Okay,
not it?
yeah, they well, when you started out, the topic sentence is they in the city of Enoch. They describing you all the goings on inside the city of Enoch. When they like I was saying, they changed the narrative. We see all that we reading in Revelations coming from here. They didn't change the narrative. Like I was saying how the Egyptians worshiped the sun. They personified the sun. When the Greeks came, because they idiots, they took the sun and made a man out of it. That's the beginning of the JC right there. They took the sun and made a whole man out of it. That's a Madonna and child. That's what the Nazis was dealing with. Nazis was Edomites and Greeks. Right. So they came in the culture and changed it. Right. So that's what that is. So let me see where I was at. Okay. What we was talking about? I just read says so we know that our forefathers, we was talking about this last night, how that our forefathers got these characteristics because of the melanin. It's the God gene. The dark black substance is melanin. That's the God gene that he gave us. That's a blessing. The reason why we got all the talents. So let's go back to Genesis right quick. Notice they said Naomi was walking around the city singing. She had a beautiful voice. So let's look at it. Okay. So we know from different passages, different precepts in the Tanakh, where when they was coming out, they was leaving Babylon, and we was dealing with the lineages, and he was telling you, even in Psalms, those Levites, those songs. So those Levites is musical. He telling you about how to praise him. The Psalms 50 we read, Michelle read the other night, telling you praise him on the instrument. So Israelites, because of the talents he gave us, they the ones associated with the musical instruments. So let's look at it. Okay. So I'm over here in Genesis 14 and 16. Now we see that Cain descendants, picking up in verse 19, Lamech took unto him 2 wives. The name of one was Ada, and the name of the other was Zillah. And Ada bore Jubal. Now check it out. Ada bore Jubal, and he was the father of such as dwell in tents, and such as have cattle. Then 21, and his brother name was Jubal, he was the father of all that such handle the harp and the organ. See that? So where this come from? Right? They're dealing with the harp and organ. Well, we know that's subscribed to us as Hebrew Israelites. And then we also know from Lamech, the book of Lamech, Naamah. She can sing like a songbird. Okay, so let's go to Jasher. We're gonna see what happened. Okay, I'm in the book of Jasher. So it says, let me get it in a minute. Okay. Yeah, so I'm in Jasher chapter 2, and I'm gonna pick it up in verse 11. It's talking about let me see if I'm in the right place. Okay. Yeah. So it says, in this Canaan, Adam had a son called Canaan. I think he's like the third. Yeah, Seth. Then you had Abel, Seth, Enoch, then Canaan. So it says in Jasher chapter 2, verse 11, and Canaan grew up, and he was 40 years old, and he became wise and had knowledge and skill and all wisdom, and he reigned over the sons of men, and he led the sons of men to wisdom and knowledge. This Melchizedek, right? He didn't acquire this knowledge, this title. For Canaan was very wise and had understanding and wisdom, and with his wisdom he ruled over spirits and demons. And Canaan knew by his wisdom that God would destroy the sons of men from having sinned upon the earth, and that the Lord would, in the latter days, bring upon them the waters of the flood, right? Then it says, and in those days, Canaan wrote upon tablets of stone what was to take place in the time to come, and he put them in his treasures. So let's look at this. I just want to plug this in there so you know. And in those days, Canaan wrote upon tablets of stone. That's what I was telling you. Not only was he doing it, Cain's descendants and these fallen angels was doing it. That's what Nimrod looking for when he went to the went east to the plains of Shinar. He looking for these tablets that they wrote. Okay. Anyway, so 14 says Canaan reigned over the whole earth, and he turned some of the sons of men to the service of God. So we turned some of Cain's descendants. He had so much wisdom, he was turning some of Cain's descendants, giving them the knowledge of God. And then 15 says, and when Canaan was 70 years old, he begot 3 sons, 2 daughters, and these are the names of the children of Canaan. The name of the firstborn was Mahalalel. That's the next son after in the lineage from Adam. And the second was Enom, and the third was Mildred, and their 2 sisters were Ada and Zillah. These are the five children of Canaan that were born. So who is this Ada and Zillah? Go back to Genesis. We're gonna see who it is. Genesis chapter 16. Like I said, you can't even deal with the scriptures. We ain't uncovered this stuff. That's the reason they hid it. So we in back in Genesis chapter 4, and it says this Cain descendants, starting at verse 16. I'm in verse 18. Enoch was born. This Cain Enoch was born Ira. Ira begot Methuselah. Methuselah begot Methuselah. So we got Cain got a Methuselah, and Adam got a Methuselah, 2 of them. And Methuselah begot Lamech. Noah's father named Lamech. And this is another Lamech right here. This is the wicked Lamech. And then 19, Lamech took unto himself wives. The name of the one was Ada, and the name of the other Zillah. This out of Adam's lineage. That's how these boys. That's why name were able to sing. They didn't mix their blood. See that? Ada and Zillah. Canaan out of Adam's lineage is the father, Ada and Zillah. And Lamech didn't marry them. He didn't mix the 2 bloodlines. That's why Jubal is the father, as the handler of the harp and the organ, they able to sing because they mix. And then 22, Zila, she bore tubal cane and struck the artificial fastened iron, and tubal cane, and the sister of tubal cane was Naamah. That's why Naamah able to do what she do. The way she was able to sing, had that beautiful voice. Blood had been mixed. Okay, that's that ferment. Okay, so like I was saying, I had brought up I brought up that yesterday while we was talking, and I said I was going to go back and because there's some people on here that hadn't heard those conversations, so I was backtracking, shining a light on it. So I mean, if you haven't got it, you know, it'll do you some good to get that book of Lamech. It's called the book of Lamech of Cain. It's probably like $5, $6. Okay, you can get it used on eBay. Okay, so anybody got any comments on that before we close out? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Got a comment?
So Aiden, ADHA, she was since they mixed it. So what was her skin color? The color of her skin?
Mulatto.
Okay.
Mulatto.
Okay.
Just like Absalom. Absalom. David married Michelle, which was Saul. Michelle was, I think, from Tyre, I believe. But anyway, Absalom was mixed, mulatto. And then Jubal and Jabal and Jubal, even Tubal Cain, they mixed. That's what a lot of people don't understand about Esau. Esau had Negro features. And then how he got to where he is today, they went into Europe. Like you familiar with the Saxons, right? That was in England.
Yes,
Saxons.
sir. The Saxons. Yes, sir.
So Anglo-Saxon. So what do that when you break that word down? What do it mean? Sons of Isaac, Isaac's sons. But that's the fake Israelites. That's the Esau that took on Israel's characteristics. We got two nations of Israel that's existed. The exiled ones that Antioch Epiphanes that kicked out of the land, then the ones that stole the land. They posing as Israelites as they posed as Israelites. That's what so many people don't understand. So they went from there, kicked out in 70 AD to Spain. Then they the ones had the ships. Lena and the Pinta and the Santa Marita looking for somewhere to claim the land. And they came to America. But before that, a lot of them went to England. The Saxons, they was invaders. That's not the original homeland. The Saxons came there and invaded that land. Sons of Isaac. That's what the Anglo-Saxon means.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Right. Okay. And so, like I said, when they went into Europe, they got their daughters and their sons are married into those aristocratic families. And so there was mulattoes at first. All you gotta do is research this. It's right in your face. And then they whited out. After 2 or 3 generations, the Negro features was gone. They was already mulatto when they got there. But after being there over a certain period of time, they whited out. We see that happening to us right here in America. Okay. Anybody got any more comments or questions? Everybody good?
No. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna say shalom. I hope everybody got something out of that. I'll see y'all at Tuesday at 8 o'clock for advanced Bible study. Shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom.